In this video, I'm sharing how I paint a pine cone in watercolor. I'm using both Prussian blue and sap green to enhance the subtle variations of brown found in pine cones. These little pops of color and glazes provide depth to the shadows and a warm touch to the overall botanical painting. This is the setup that I'm using. So now I've got a paper towel. I always have paper towels on hand. I have clean water, and then this is the other jar of water that I'm using. Here's the painting that I'm working on. This is the sketch this is the original painting that I did. And from this, I started a sketch also to see, it's a pencil sketch that I did. Pencil drawing, I guess is what you'd call it. I kind of worked out the details in it. I have a palette with all of my browns on it. These are my brushes. They are Silver Black Magic, and they run anywhere from about an 8 to a 0. I like the fine point they have, and when you're working on something like this that is strictly detail, these brushes for me work the best. The other thing that you can't see, it's off camera most of the time, is I have a plate here. I have extra paint on this, and I've got some blues and greens on here also. During the week, I work on several watercolors at a time, so this paint will get used up during the week anyway. I'm going to be painting this in sections because I'm working in a very representational style. For each section, I'll start with clear water wash, and then I'm going to add a very light wash of yellow ochre. I'm going to let it dry, and then I start defining by using a combination of burnt umber, raw umber, Van Dyke brown. It's a very slow process. I'm defining the stem, so I'm just drawing a very light line down, and now I'm outlining the scale. I think they're called scales. I'm doing this to give myself a skeleton, something to work off of. Also, it's going to define the shadow underneath, so this is very lightly put on there, and it's just done with yellow ochre. With watercolor, you build in layers, and this is the very first wash of the very first layer. You build from light to dark, so you successively add one layer on top of the other. And as you can see, this is a very, very light wash that I'm putting on top. I'm just kind of defining my scale. I'm building the groundwork for what's going to come next as I add the darker colors on top. I completed the top of the pine cone by using the darks, and the darks that I used were Van Dyke Brown, Burnt Umber, and Raw Umber. Once I got done with that, we'll start with the second section, and it's going to be a repeat all the way down the pine cone. I'll start with a water wash, and then I'll very lightly put in some yellow ochre. Once the yellow ochre dries, I'm going to start glazing. And the first color that I'm going to use for a glaze is sap green, and I'm just going to very lightly wash it over top. For a shadow where the scale meets the stem, I'm adding just a touch of burnt umber. I'm adding a wash of burnt sienna on this side. Now, this is a very warm color, and I will be cooling it down in some later washes. I'll probably use a little bit of Van Dyke brown and then some more sap green on top. This is Prussian blue, and this is my dark. I use it sparingly, but it's dark enough that it's going to pull your eye back. This way, the interior portion of the pine cone will stay in shadow. It's a matter of balance now, adding color, trying to preserve the lighter portions while showing the variations of brown that make up a pine cone. That's why I use Prussian blue and the sap green. The blue, it's a very strong color, and I try to use it sparingly as my dark, but it draws the eye back. It works for a shadow, and it enhances the roundness of the pine cone itself. The green I want to work in conjunction with the browns. Because it's a cooler color, it's letting the warmer yellow ochre and raw sienna come forward. I'm building up my layers now. I'm starting off with burnt umber. It's a warmer color. Each layer builds on top of the other. So once I'm done with the burnt umber, I'm going to be working in Van Dyke Brown. Now, Van Dyke Brown is a much cooler color, and I'm using it for my shadow, and it's also where the turn of the scale grows out of the stem. And last, that touch of Prussian blue, it's going to be my dark. As I work my way down the pine cone, the scales are actually getting larger. Now, the scale has a surface that is in light on the tip, and that is actually getting larger, but it also has a portion that is darker, and that's in shadow. So it becomes kind of a balancing act, not to make anything that looks like mud. I'm laying down a flat wash of color. Then I'm going to be removing with a damp brush some of the paint on the tip. That would be the part that would be in the light. And on the very tip, I'm just going to take a little bit of yellow ochre and I'm just going to define that very tip. Using watercolor techniques wet on wet, glazing, and blending with a damp brush, along with painting in sections, this pine cone has come to life. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.